Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about season 1, episode 6 of Invincible, entitled "You Look Kinda Dead." So first off, let me start by apologizing for not getting this out at the normal time. Normally I try to get this out right on Friday when the episode drops. Last week was kind of a crazy week for me. I don't think you saw, I didn't put out any videos after Snowfall, which I think I put out Thursday morning. And yeah, it was a crazy week. So I watched everything, but I didn't get an opportunity to put it out. As you saw, the last episode I put out yesterday was the deep dive on Falcon and Winter Soldier with me and Axel and Tony Teflon. Check that out. I was thinking about doing an initial reaction for Falcon and Winter Soldier because I did watch both of these shows Friday, but Friday was just a really bad day, so it didn't work out. But once it hit maybe like Saturday, I wasn't really in a good place to put the video to record the videos for this and for Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I knew that I had the deep dive coming, so I'm like, I'll put the deep dive out for episode 5, and that can just be, for episode 5 as opposed to having both the initial reaction and the deep dive. And then I figure, I'll sit on Invincible, I'll put it out. I figure, but by this point, everybody who's seen it, is probably already taken in whatever kind of content they would have taken in on it, but I also didn't want my coverage to be missing an episode either. So here I am to still talk about it, and everything should be back to normal from this point on. So I should have the Falcon and Winter Soldier finale on Friday, along with episode 7 of Invincible. I don't know. I can't recall. I know I said in an earlier video how many episodes this season was supposed to be, but I don't recall how many it is. I think it was like 8 or something like that. I'm not sure. But anyway, wanted to open up with that, a little bit of an explanation for the drought. Although if you can really call it a drought, it's been like 4 or 5 days. But when I'm putting out something five out of 7 days, it is a drought if I miss 4 or 5 days. So nobody was checking for Fight Talk either. So that'll be back again with the next UFC pay-per-view, by the way. So back to this episode. So I really liked how this episode opened. Before I get into that though, I thought the episode as a whole was it was one of the lesser episodes of Invincible, but still a really good episode of television. Like I'm starting to really, really, really enjoy this show. Like I'm liking. And this is me kind of getting into this episode a little bit, not just the show as a whole, but I'm really liking what they're doing with Amber and Mark. I think like it's really interesting. Like you get that a lot in superhero films, right? And television shows, the whole idea of whether or not the hero can tell his love interest who he is or who she is. And they're doing that here, but you also have the added mixture of the fact that it's still a teenage romance kind of deal, but it still has adult themes. So you think like, Spider-Man or whatever is similar, but it's always kind of just, I don't know, this feels the closest to how it would actually be if you were a teenager trying to salvage a relationship, but also incredibly powerful and a superhero. I feel like the time has passed where Mark probably should have told Amber who he is by now, but if you're anything like me, you've seen a whole lot of comic book television and movies. So what happens after the hero tells this girl who he is? She becomes a target. So I think that's probably what's going to happen actually at some point. Like things are getting worse with him and Amber. I'm sorry. I really liked the scene at the party where it kind of like from Mark's perspective, it looks like Amber and this guy are flirting with one another, but then they cut to us being up on the conversation, and we hear Kyle, saying something like, yeah, my girlfriend's coming by. It's been a while since I've seen her. Like, you got a man? Yeah. Like, so you see that they're both in relationships, whether Amber considers herself in one at that point or at that point remains to be seen. But, it's not something that's inappropriate, but from Mark's perspective, it looks like it is, and he can't do anything because, William's boyfriend's in trouble. So, I like that dynamic, but I feel like at some point I feel like we've reached that point where Mark's gonna have to talk to Amber and tell her who he is, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But they found a way to take something very generic, like the idea of a superhero not being able to tell his significant other who he is or she is, and somehow found a way to make it a little bit more interesting. So I'm really liking what they're doing there. But I'm on tangents already. Heading back to the beginning of the episode. The episode opens at some college, we don't know where, with some drunk frat guy stumbling out of some bushes, and it's Justin Roiland, which it took me a minute because he sounded like a mixture of Rick and like Bob Odenkirk. So I'm listening to the voice and I'm like, this voice sounds really familiar, but I can't quite pinpoint who it is. And I'm like, it sounds like multiple people. And then like I'm listening to it, I'm like, it kind of sounds like Rick. And so when I'm watching on Amazon, I pause it every time there's a new character. And I'm gonna start adding this into these video reviews, talking about all of the big names that they're bringing in every single week. Like every time there's a new character, I pause it and see who it is, and it's always some big name actor. So Justin Roiland, and I haven't said so far, but he's a co-creator of Rick and Morty, and he voices Rick. He voiced this Doug character at the very beginning of the episode. So a little cool scene, and it's one of those things where you know that it's gonna come back around later, and you're just kind of waiting to see how. So, it opens up with him getting kidnapped by, we don't know, kidnapped by someone and experimented on. And then I think and then they go to the credits, the opening title, where, and I like how they do that, where they stop a sentence that's supposed to end with the word Invincible and put the title up there. But, then they hit the title card, and then the episode proceeds. So, one thing that I didn't like about this episode, and this is, I'm still grappling with how I want to interpret this and what I want to take away from it. But we see Black Samson, Mark, and Monster Girl all in the hospital following that crazy good battle with Battle Beast at the end of the previous episode. And at the end of that episode, I'm looking like, man, Battle Beast killed half these people. Like, there's no way like that these people are alive. And ultimately, obviously I assumed Mark was going to survive, but I thought Monster Girl and Black Samson were goners. And they both end up living. And that bothered me because it looked like the level of devastation that Battle Beast rained down upon them, they should not be able to survive. And the show has already told us that superheroes can be killed in episode 1. So to have Battle Beast beat them that severely and for all of them to survive, it kind of bothered me. I felt like we should have had some losses there. And it's tough to have stakes when you don't know what can kill these characters. Like if what Battle Beast did to him didn't kill him, what can? And I could accept the idea that these characters are going to be incredibly difficult to kill, but it's more difficult to accept when we already had the thing in episode 1 with Nolan killing all of them. And yes, I could take away from that maybe only Nolan is powerful enough to kill superheroes, and that may be the case, but the show hasn't really told me that, and I don't even know if I really want to assume that because I don't know how I feel about that. Because what makes Nolan special that he could do something that another superhero with whatever ability he used to kill that person. So like I think what didn't he pop somebody's head by squeezing it or like really tight? Like, so what if another superhero with some sort of super strength comes along? Why can't they do that? So Nolan has a number of powers, and Nolan is clearly the most powered person on the show. But I still have a little bit of an issue with the fact that Black Samson and Monster Girl both survived the previous episode, and right now I'm gonna kind of withhold judgment on it. But it just didn't sit well with me, and I can't really pinpoint why. I really felt like to keep the show feeling realistic, one or both of them should have died, and Mark should have died. Like it looked like Mark's whole entire torso was just caved in, and then it's like when they brought them to the hospital. When I was doing my notes for this episode, I wrote something to the effect of Mark, Black Samson, and Monster Girl arrive at the hospital in far better condition than they left the battle. And like I found that to be a little bit troubling, but it's one of those things that I feel like this show has a lot of anime type features, like the look of it, the look of the violence and the action when it starts. And I feel like that might have something to do with why they go for over the top with the violence and with the way that they kill off or hurt some of these characters. And for me, I look at it like, oh, that's a death blow. But within the world of maybe like anime or something, you like those sorts of things don't kill people. Like people don't die that easily or something like that. I don't know. But this is the first time I had any issue with that sort of thing. So I'm going to withhold judgment, just kind of see how it plays out. Maybe it's just a one-off and it's not a big deal, or maybe it's something that'll make sense to me going forward. But that didn't really sit well with me when that happened. But that was the only issue I had with the episode. I've really liked the way this has progressed over the last, I think, maybe like 2 to 3 episodes. The situation with Debbie trying to figure out if Nolan actually killed the Guardians. I really like how this is played out, how she's slowly, not slowly coming to the realization, but slowly accepting it. It's like she knew from the start that he did it. She felt it. And then as time has progressed, she's, that intuition is kicked in and something tells her like, let me look into this, let me look into that. It's because she knows. And I think it's interesting to think about, and we'll see if the show touches on this, how, if she knew that Nolan was capable of something like this, and if so, for how long? Because if you take it at face value that she thought Nolan was just like a great guy, and this is all a surprise to her, I would wonder what made her dig in the way that she did. She really checked into trying to figure out if Nolan did this. So I like how this is going. She confronted him about it toward the end of the episode. He denied it. I think one of the things I'm most curious about for this whole show is what is going on with Nolan. Like, he seems like a great guy sometimes, and then sometimes he seems like a piece of shit, and I can't tell if the times when he's a piece of shit is that who he is? Is he under someone else's power? And if so, and if that's who he is, why? Like, why is he playing both sides? Like, there's got to be some reason for doing something like what he did to the Guardian. So I'm really interested to see how this Debbie Nolan stuff plays out. Like, really interested. And then I also really liked the stuff that they did with William, which is Mark's friend. And side note, did we know he was gay? I didn't know. I didn't know that for sure until this episode. Like, that was actually pretty weird. I was like, I was like, oh, he's gay. I wasn't. Maybe I missed it. I think I miss a lot of subtle clues about character sexuality because it's just something that I'm usually not checking for because I don't care. I don't care what your sexuality is. Like, fuck who you want to fuck. Like, I really don't care. So, like, it's interesting to me that these things come up and then I wonder, like, did I know this the whole time, or did I just figure, or was I supposed to know this the whole time, or is this like the reveal of that thing? But yeah, they had a good scene. Well, not a good scene, a good portion of the storyline. We'll call it like the B plot. Actually, this was the A plot. But they go up to this college. They go on a road trip. It's Mark, Amber, William, and they're going up to meet with this guy that William's dating named Rick, voiced by Jonathan Groff, who some of you may know from Hamilton, and some of you, like myself, may know from Mindhunter. And then of course, most of you probably know from Frozen. That's the thing I associate him with the least is Frozen. But yeah, they have they split up. William and Rick. I just realized that they have a character named Rick, and then they have the guy that voices Rick play someone else. But they split up. They go do their thing. Amber and Mark do their thing. Amber and Mark seem to be having a good time until we are revisited by Justin Roiland's character Doug, who now looks like RoboCop. I'm not gonna look up the name because this was clearly like a one-time character, so whatever his name isn't important. But he shows up and he gives Mark the business, and it does not look good. Mark ends up defeating him once he takes his helmet off. He sees a reflection in the water, kills himself. So they're going around the campus, and they come across this guy named D.A. Sinclair, who's like this douchebag, and he's voiced by Ezra Miller, who is now most well known as playing the Flash in the Justice League movie. And long story short, he is kidnapping people and turning them into these RoboCop monsters. It's a very kind of like simple, just a story just for this episode that I don't expect to see go anywhere. It's really just served as a vehicle for putting Mark and Amber's relationship in a different setting and giving it a different test. But it was still interesting to watch. It was in the history of episodes to this point, the singular stories that exist within an episode have to date been more interesting than this one, the college trip and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, even the least interesting single story in Invincible was still compelling. Like, I still enjoyed it. I really wanted to see what happened. It was fun to watch. And I think that's my biggest takeaway from this show right now is like even when it's not firing on all cylinders, it's still really fun, really enjoyable, really compelling. Like this is a really good show. I can't overstate that enough. But after giving that pretty big compliment, I do have one other issue with the episode. What the fuck's going on with Eve? Like her storyline is very weird at this point. Like I get her wanting to leave her parents. Her dad's a total douche. I get it. But then she decides she wants to go like not go to college and become like a hippie superhero. Like she goes like to the woods and builds a tree house and is like flying around saving people from nature. Like it was a really weird part of that storyline. So not a big fan of what happened with Eve in this episode either. So yeah, this episode had some highs. It did unfortunately have some, we'll call them mids. They weren't lows, but it had some stuff that I didn't particularly like. But again, still a really fun episode. And then last thing, we've only spent a little bit of time on this over the course of the show. But the other plot line that I'm really interested in, aside from whatever's going on with Nolan, is whatever's going on with Robot. Why is he trying to clone? I'm assuming Rexplode, but like, why is he trying to clone Rexplode to the point where he was willing to free criminals from prison and aid them in cloning each other and cloning for him? So he revisits and basically just checks in on them, see how they're doing. They don't trust them and decide that they're gonna get some form of insurance. I don't know what that's gonna be, but I think that covers everything that I wanted to talk about. Yes, it does. So again, really good episode. It did have some issues, some things I didn't like, but again, by Invincible standards, it was on the lesser end, the lower end of the 6 episodes we've seen so far, but still a really good 45 to 50 minutes of television. I'm a real big fan of this show. So I hope it sees a long life, and I hope that it does better for Kirkman's legacy than I think The Walking Dead ultimately will. I'm not going to get into talking about The Walking Dead. That if you have questions or comments or anything about The Walking Dead, feel free to drop them in there and I'll reply. I stopped watching The Walking Dead, I think after, well, I'm not going to say when, because if somebody were happen to be watching this, it could spoil something for them in the future. But yeah, I hope this does better for Kirkman's legacy. I feel like Walking Dead kind of hurt it. The television show did, but I think Invincible is in really good hands. So yeah, really big fan. And I'll see you guys next week for episode 7. Peace.